Hi, it's Lil from Made by Marley, and today I'm going to show you how to resuscitate old furniture into bohemian beauties. So this is the piece I'm going to be doing today. I'm ashamed to say it's actually came out my own house. It was what I used to keep my vinyl for my silhouette in. It had some stenciling on which I've sanded off because it'll be no surprise to you to let you know that this is a decoupage project. I know you're probably thinking, oh, not another decoupage project, but you're going to have a few of these just until we kind of get everything licked. We have our paper sorted now. It's very, very close to the release. But today I'm going to be using these papers here, which are called My Darling Clementine. And these are oranges. So there's obviously quite a bohemian influence onto these. So this is what I'm going to be using to make over this. The paint I'm going to be using is Barcelona orange from Annie Sloan and a couple other colours, but our main colour is Barcelona orange and Capri pink. So I'm just going to get on and let's get this done. So this piece was originally, it has had many coats of paint in its lifetime. Martin and I were just trying to work out how many coats it actually have. We reckon about 6. The last coat of paint was a self-sealing graphite coloured paint. The drawers have been painted inside, which I'm just probably going to leave. There's nothing horrible about them. I've taken the handles, the hardware off. This was a distress finish that, as I said, had stenciling on it. It actually really looked quite nice when in its day, but it's had its day now. So I'm going to try and keep some of this original wood in it. The majority of it's going to be green. This is a cupboard. What can I say? So let's get on and do it. Okay, so as I said, the surface, this is a great thing about our paper. You can put it on, it's onto any surface. You don't have to paint it white, first of all. So I'm going to be using, it comes with the two, like most of our collections, it comes with the two main pattern and a coordinating pattern. So I'm going to be putting the main pattern down the front, and I've already kind of folded in my edges to kind of get the rough idea of where it's going to go. So put my glasses on. We need to get rid of our edge. All our decoupage paper is ripping paper, so and you get a better, nicer line when you rip it. Probably maybe better if I'd folded it first, but this is how I roll. So I'm just going to rip here, and I'm going to kind of roughly rip down this edge. This is really important when applying decoupage, that you have this ripped edge that you can paint up to. And this is a little bit different as well, because I'm showing you how to paint up to the edge as opposed to applying it already over paint. So, and I'm just going to take off this little self edge down here again. Sorry, this isn't the quickest process. So this is going to go on here like this. And what I'm going to do is, just off camera, I'm quickly just going to go and rip the other one so that it can go on here and we can get on with this. So both sheets have been ripped to what I would like. Now, on wood, non-painted surfaces, you can work with it. This is the really good thing about our decoupage paper. You can put it onto anything. You can butt your paint up against it. You don't have to have a white background underneath because it's more robust. So I am using top coat lacquer, and I've got a little bit of a container here down below. And what I'm doing is I'm just going to, not dribble it all over my face. You want your surface to be quite coated, because this is raw wood, it's going to absorb it quite quickly. So make sure you've got plenty on. I'm not too worried that these two, when I put them on, are not going to meet up to the middle, because obviously I'm going to fill those in with paint. So make sure you get plenty on. I'm dribbling it all over the decoupage paper below. So plenty of coat on, because there's no paint under this and it'll just absorb. And I'm going to apply this onto here like this. And I'm just going to use my brush to smooth it all out. I like all these edges here. Don't worry about these. So that's our first part on. If you feel you've got a wrinkle, just pull it off and work back to the edges. And our bottom part, I'm just going to apply a little bit more lacquer because, as I said, it's quite an absorbent surface I'm working on. And I'm wanting the rip to be about here. Now, I'm going to take a little bit off here, like that, and just rip a bit more off these edges down the bottom. And again, making sure that you work from the centre out. You're probably going to have to keep adding a little bit of lacquer. And there we have it. This is going to form the front. And it goes on really, really quite well because it's a little bit more of a robust paper. You're not dealing with tissue paper. You're dealing with something that's a lot thicker. Not too thick, but it's the one that has came out the best in testing. We've tested it on glass, rough wood, mirrors, what else? Drawers, insides of drawers, you name it. So I'm just going to leave that alone now. I'm just going to leave it alone. So what you're going to do now, you've got this on here, making sure that that's stuck down. There, I'm really quite happy with that. So you're going to go over the top of this when it's completely dry, but if you keep going over the top of it now with more lacquer, you're just going to add more wrinkles into it, and it works better if you just leave it alone just now. So what we're going to do with our orange, and this is where it's going to all start to get a bit fun, because I want to keep some of this colour around the edges. Now I have a brand new can of Barcelona orange, and I have this really thick stuff, and I think I want to try putting some of this, just because it won't run into these green edges that was already there from the natural wood. It is very thick. Butt it up against your painted edge, making sure you get it right up. We can blend away at that in a minute. I'm quite liking that so far. I mean, you might not have a surface that's previously been painted and you just want to paint all over it. I'm trying to keep as much of this sort of natural and kind of the green colour that was already there before I sanded it the last time. But you do have to go up to your edge. You don't want any, whoop, hang on a minute. You don't want any evidence of, just putting some of that into there. You really have to kind of leave this until it dries a wee bit more. I don't want any evidence of where that paper has been before, and we are going to have to come up and do 2 coats beside it. So I'm just going to go along and I'll finish off this door, and then we'll get onto the top drawers, because I'll open a whole new can of Barcelona orange for the sides and everything, because I want my paint to run smoothly. What do you do with all these parts that you've ripped off your paper? I wouldn't bin them, especially if you're doing this kind of sort of Indian inspired, you know, use them in and out of your design. So I think I'm going to put one here. I've already done, just in case you're wondering, I've kind of got ahead of the game here. I've just put a coat of the brand new can of Annie Sloan on the side, just to kind of, because there's going to be a wee bit of layering and things going on, so I was just kind of getting the first coat down. And again, just apply, and then don't touch it, just leave it alone. You might find a little bubble, just let it be, let it dry, and it'll dry back down smooth. Because our decoupage has a little edge, you need to have this. I just want to show you this. This is good decoupage practice, having ripped edges. this is good practice. The more fibres, can you see that in the paper? The more fibres you have when you glue it down, the easier it will be to blend to it and it will disappear. If you cut with a straight line with scissors, you're going to have a cut line and it's kind of dropping off the edge of the cliff. But when you have, see this here, this ripped area here, when you have that, sorry, there's a little bit of orange got on my paint there, but when you have that, this edge here, when I feel that now, it's as if it's part of the furniture. The rip makes it part, and that is good practice no matter what kind of decoupage paper you use. There's some that don't rip, but this is good practice to have these. And the best thing to do with this is to completely let it dry, because when you bring your line of paint, when you come to paint over it and you use a chalk paint and it comes up to here, you will not know that that was decoupage paper. So it's best to just apply and then just leave it alone. So I'm just going to go on and I'm going to apply these parts here and there on the piece where I think it's going to add a little bit of extra interest to, probably on these outer edges. I've got this bigger part here, which I might do kind of more up the top. And obviously this was my other sheet. I just took the edge off, I ripped off my thing, and what I'm going to do is I'm literally going to half this like this, and I'm actually going to just rip it in half like this, and this is going to form my drawer fronts. So we'll get to that in a minute, but that's just me showing you how to rip it. So just as down below, just putting on my lacquer, and I've ripped it again to size. Oops. And then just smoothing out all your wrinkles right to the edge. If you've got any bits that you think at the edges that haven't got any lacquer on them, make sure you deal with them at the beginning. There now, that's one drawer. Put that one in. And I'll just apply lacquer to this one now. I think at some point in time, I must have applied some lacquer or something to this drawer, because I thought I was putting it on to bare wood and it was being absorbent, but up the top it seems a bit runnier, so I don't know whether I've sealed it, but just to show you that it goes on sealed as well, so it doesn't matter what your surface is really. Just need to make sure that I've got this pretty much. Whoop. So you get a wee bit of playing time with this as well, which is good. It's not like, you know, like a transfer, you've done it, it's done. So what I'm going to do now, once I've just got this edge here stuck down, is I am going to let this dry for a while. It's better, really, to be honest with you. You want to try and get some layered paint onto it as quick as possible, but I'm just going to let this all dry. I've put all my little pieces that were left over down the sides and things, and that's that. I'm just going to let that completely dry, making sure that I've got it all adhered to the piece. Okay, this has got a wee bit of an edge in here that I'm just going to bend it down. It does bend around edges even though it's a little bit more robust. Done. Okay, so I'm putting the blend on now to blend up to these. Now I just want to show you the difference. This is an old can, a really old can of Annie Sloan. Never get rid of these, keep them. The thicker and thicker they get, they're fantastic for texture. Just don't let them dry out, but you can use them for all sorts of things. This is a brand new opened can of Annie Sloan Barcelona Orange. If you use an Annie Sloan paint, this is what I'm using here. I'm using this one here, which is the Capri Pink. And again, it's not as dried up as the Barcelona Orange, but it is on its last legs. And what I'm doing is, I'm just literally kind of formulating my own little blend around them. And I'm using a small brush because I want to get in all my spaces. I'm taking it up to my decoupage paper. And I'm maybe putting some pink here. And just taking it up to the edges. This is how you're going to get rid of your your paper edge. I'm taking it round there like that. I wanted to start mixing some of the orange into it. So, and really now what I'm doing is I'm just going over all the dark wood, the colour, and I'm blending up to this line just to give it an impression that there's paper below it. But you won't be able to feel that when you put your hands over it at the end because we ripped the paper and because we're using nice thick paint and we're using chalk paint, you can blend away all these things. So I'm going to take some orange and bring it up to here. And I'm just mixing the two of them together. It doesn't matter if you go slightly over it. And making sure you get in all your joins of your furniture. And that's what I'm going to do now. I'm just mixing between the orange and the pink. Just to kind of, we're going to put some stuff over the top of this, of course. But this is just getting our blend together, and that's all I'm doing, just mixing and matching them. I might go back over and put a little bit more sort of highlight of pink on this part here, just to pull it together. But the colours I'm predominantly picking out are the orange and this hot pink just now. All the other colours that we've got going on, I could put those on at the end. Okay, so what I'm doing now is I've just got this orange. I mixed this up myself quite a while ago. It's a darker orange than everybody else. I really wanted this sort of yellowy goldy colour, but it just wasn't showing up. And as you can see here, I've stamped it. I don't want the whole stamp. I just want a suggestion of sort of pattern. And so now I'm just going to put some pattern over the top of what we've currently got. It's not going to be hugely noticeable. It's just to set the scene for what's going to happen next, really. You can use any of it. I had this one laid out, this one laid out, and this one laid out. So either of those sort of kind of bohemian numbers would do. Or if you don't have anything like that, just a little stamp from Etsy, anything that can give you some texture. I'm just going to go across the front, and I'll probably use this one here for just, in fact, I'll just show you because then you know what I'm doing. No point me not showing you, so I'm probably going to have it. And I'm just going to push it in just to give it, it's just to give it a little bit of texture. That's all this is doing. It's not going to all print in. So just like this. And then the second time round, I'm not going to roll it up so it's not all glaringly in your face. So I'm going to do this around these bits, and probably I'll double it over and pop it in this gap here, and I'll do the widery ones on the wide section. So I'll just go off and do that. Okay, so I'm going to be using this stencil. I know it's too big for this, but I'm okay with that. I had ones that would have fitted perfectly, but I like the whole, it's going off the edge. What I've done is I'm using black, but I've put a little bit of this blue colour in it. That sort of blue, there's a lot of black in this, but I don't want my design to be too overpowering. So I've just added a tad blue in it. So I'm just going to show you. Start down here. And I'm just going to go around stenciling. My brush is quite dry because I don't want it bleeding under. And that way it'll give it more of a faded look. The drier your brush, the more you're going to get that sort of faded appearance when you pull your stencil away. And I'm just trying to make sure that I get in all the areas that need stenciled. So this is a little bit like you've seen it all before, I understand. So I'm just going to go on and I'll stencil around the doors first, and then we'll find another stencil that's got a little bit more interest for around the side edges. Okay. Okay, so what I've been doing now is I've got this stencil here and some purpley pink. I've just added a little bit of blue to my Capri pink just to make it a little bit darker. And what I've been doing has been randomly stenciling into my own decoupage paper to make it all work as one. I've done a row up here, I've done some across here, and I'm just about where these lines are, I'm not doing it, and then I'm just continuing. I'll just do a couple on camera just so you can see what I'm doing. So I'm just doing this up the piece where there's not a lot of interest, and I'll take this off. and I'll show you how this looks. I'll get to the rest in a minute. So this is adding interest. Our blacky blue stencil is adding interest. I have got one more colour to put on, which is a bluey green, but I want to, this black now is still very glaringly, I've forgotten this lip of this decoupage paper up here. I'll get to that in a minute. But this black mandala is kind of overpowering things. So I'm going to have to put some black mandalas in here, more in the design. So I'm going to go away, find a mandala, or even just a black stamp with black ink, maybe something a little bit finer around these edges. But I'll go away and see what I've got in my stash and come back. But I'll finish these purpley, oh, I've lost the plot, peacock feathers. I'll finish these, and then I'll find something to add a little bit more black into it. Top tip, when you have all of this texture, and it is texturized, and you want to stamp with a stamp onto this, you really need to, and I hope that Martin can catch this, you need your stamp pad absolutely, you need it saturated. It is past juicy. It's just, you really need it really, really inky, because it'll just not stamp onto, you can see what I'm doing there. I'm using nearly a whole bottle. You need it. Now, I don't really want Martin kind of like showing you my dirty floor, so I'll just kind of like stamp it down here, and I'll show you how juicy it is when I lift it up. You can see the ink. I'm going to have to go quite quickly, but you can see the ink glistening off it. Now these ones here always give me the sweats, because really you're supposed to always keep these kind of things on a mount, and I never do. Now, I won't be broken-hearted if it doesn't. I'm out of puff, I don't know. I'm breathing really heavy. I won't be broken-hearted if it hasn't all stamped on, but I just really want to add a bit of black into the piece. So let's see how this work has worked out for us. Yes. Yeah, that's just enough. I'm going to ignore this part here, and then I'm going to go again on this part here, and then I'll do it the rest off camera, but I'll just show you again. Martin, be ready, and I'll show you how juicy the stamp is. This is how juicy it is. Can you see in the light? Can you see it's practically running off the bottom? So again, position and try and, it's just to bring the dark. Now I do have a mandala sort of a stencil, but it's in the middle of another stencil, and I'd have to cut it out, and I don't want to, because it's more used to me all in one. So I thought I would just put a bit of a pattern on it instead with ink. And that one there. I think, because I can, I'm going to go around here as well. So I'll go off and do that round off camera, and we'll see how it looks next. So what I'm doing with the sides is I gave the sides 2 coats of paint, but I left it lighter in some areas so that the blue that had been used underneath kind of shone through to give it that sort of distress look. And if you've never done wet distress, it's really, really simple. You just wipe away your chalk paint before you seal it. You can't do this after you've sealed it. And you just wipe away your edges, and you can do this as heavy or as light as you want. I'm going for obviously quite a, as per usual, a heavy distress. So you can just wipe away parts and then give it a clean off, and that gives it this look. And I'm just going to do this, I've done it on the other side, and I'm just going to do this on both sides just to give it that. I was a bit heavier up here, so this might take a bit more of a wipe to get it to come back. So this is all you do, it's just a wet cloth. Sometimes I think it kind of helps if your cloth water is a little bit warm. It kind of speeds up the processor, so I think, or I don't know if it does, but I just feel it does. So that's all I'm doing on the sides. I've still got the top to give it second coat, but before we go any further, I'll just No, I won't balance that up there. These are the handles that I'm going to be putting on the front. These don't quite match, but I don't mind this. And this is the lock that I'm going to be putting on the door. I'm going to go and I'm going to paint these with gold gilding acrylic. So I'm going to lay those down and give those a good coat of gold. So I'll do that. I'll finish this. I'll paint the top off camera. You don't need to see me paint the top of a piece of furniture. We'll spin it back round and we'll put our last colour that should hopefully frame it all out and pull it all together. So for my handles, I'm going to be using acrylic gilding enamel, which is absolutely perfect for handles. And I'm just going to give them one coat, and you can see how nice this goes on. I use it quite a lot. It's a lovely product, and it sets hard. It's outdoor, indoor, it's you name it, it settles, and it's for any surface, but it really works well on metal. So I'm going to do these. I'm obviously going to do this little key as well, just because at the end of this piece I'm going to be spattering the whole thing maybe with some gold. Well, we'll be putting quite a bit of gold on it. So I'm going to go off and I'm just going to do these, and then we'll get ready to doing the sort of framing out of this piece and getting it over the finish line. Okay, so the size of the drawers and the insides of these drawers had been a sort of mint green, and that doesn't go with what I'm going to do. So the accent colour that I'm going to frame this all out with is this blue colour, which is in the pattern of Moroccan. This is it here on the side of the drawer. But because these drawers sides are recessed in, it means I can decorate them, and I very rarely you see me do that. If the drawer is loose, I will do that. If the drawer is tight, I won't. It's just going to add extra layers and extra texture, and it's just going to end up scraping back and forward, and it's not going to look that good. So what I've got, I put a sort of lotus stencil on. I've got some chalk paint and a little brush, and I'm just doing the swirly, twirly motion, making sure that this one doesn't quite fit. You'd be surprised to know, I picked one that again that doesn't fit onto it, but I like it when it's a little bit cut off. So I'm just going to do this one, and I'll do the other end of this, and then I'll show you what I did with it, because there's a rail in here, a recess, which I couldn't quite work to. So I'm just going to put this over here and sit this on here like this, and pick up a bit more paint. So I never really worry too much about stenciling. I think the secret is not to overthink it, not to think you're going to make a mess. Just twirl it around. I've seen people do it lots of different ways, that they base coat it inside and they do all sorts of things. I don't think you need to do any of that, especially not for the inside of a drawer. There we go. Now I think we'll call that good. So what I did next was, if I can find it, because I think I've maybe just sat by, I've got a stamp here. I think it's an IOD stamp. In fact, I'm almost convinced it's an IOD stamp. It doesn't quite fit on, but all I'm going to do is I'm going to put it along here like this, and just put a little bit of jus along these drawers. And I might get a chalk mark and do a kind of swirly pattern in here. Just when you pull it out, you'll see it. I might put some chalk pattern. I don't know. It depends how involved I'm going to make them. It's just the inside of my drawers, but I think that finishes it off nice. And I've done the other side as well. So I'm going to go on, do the other drawer, and then we'll get on to the accenting in this blue colour, putting on our handles. No, accenting it, sealing, and then putting on our handles. Okay, so the piece has been thoroughly sealed now, and how I did it was I put my sealer in one of these tubs, and I use a kitchen sponge when I'm doing something like this, and I just run up and down it and make sure it's all the chalk paint is properly sealed, all of the decoupage paper, this has been sealed. Now, because what I'm going to be putting on top of this is all sealable, I'm using self-sealable paints and gilded acrylic, then there's no issue. Now, I tried, I thought this blue, I thought this blue, I even thought of a green, but I think I'm going to choose this because it's the nearest to this blue that I can find. Now, all I'm going to do is the usual sort of veer. This is quite thick, this self-leveling paint, so I've got an old palette knife. This is a really old one. Now I'm going to be doing some gold in here, but I want to start framing it out. So I'm just going to do this sort of not too heavy, just adding a little bit here and there up my cupboards to kind of frame out the centre. So this always kind of is something that I do, you know, you've seen me do it quite a lot, but it's just to frame this part out. I'm probably going to do here as well, paying more attention obviously to my corners because that's what makes it. So you can see here and here that already makes this part lift, and I'll probably do down this edge here. I'm doing it kind of so kind of like, but I won't be doing that fully all the way up. The next thing, I'm just kind of giving you a rough idea of what I'm going to be doing. I've got my gold gilding enamel as well, acrylic, and I'm going to be adding some gold just here and there, not tons of it, but enough just to kind of give it a wee bit of a sparkle. Probably, I don't want to do it too much in there because I've collected quite a lot of, you know, like good texture. So, you know, where it's kind of a bit smoother and it's not lacking anything, I'm going to put some gold. Just, you know, there's no rhyme or reason to what I'm doing. It's just roughly adding a little bit of zhuzh. So I'm going to go on and I'm just going to finish this up now because this is my last steps apart from the handles, which I'll get Martin to put on. Okay, so we're finished. I ended up painting the handles black after all of that and everything else I went through, so they've gone practically back to what they began. If you have an old piece of furniture and you want to resuscitate it and you want to give it new life and you're not quite sure how to reimagine, this is the kind of thing you can do. Add plenty of texture, add some decoupage, add stamping, add a little bit of stenciling, and voila, it's done. So hopefully I've given you enough inspiration to have a go yourself. If you have subscribed to our channel, thank you so much, and I love reading your comments, and some of them really make me giggle. If you like the video, like it, share it, leave us a comment. I answer all comments, and if you haven't subscribed yet and you're watching our videos, could you please subscribe? Now the next video will be our release. It won't be the next video, but the video after that, I don't want to give the date away, will be the release video for the decoupage paper. So if you're interested at all in decoupage, how to apply it, what you can do with it, where you can get it from, postage, size, etc., then keep an eye out for that video.